take this opportunity to welcome you all to this very important session, whereby we'll focus on local and international, local and national roles of women in development. We have about 5 speakers here with us, and we expect them to focus basically. This session basically will illuminate the roles played by women in local and national development, which needs to be sustained. The focus will be on how to improve women's rights while taking into account international recommendations on all prescriptions. The balance between genders must be encouraged at all levels of administrative and political structures, as well as in private and public sectors. So, the local initiatives that promote empowerment of women in local economic development, like professional training, access to credit, etc., will also be highlighted, as well as the crucial role played by men also. So, we will have, let me introduce myself. First, I'm Professor Constancia Rugumamu. I'm a fellow of the Tanzania Academy of Sciences and a member of the Council of the Tanzania Academy of Sciences. Also, I'm a member of the Nasac Women for Science Working Group, but basically I teach at the University of Dar es Salaam. I teach zoology, I teach pest management, focusing on agricultural production and food security issues, of course with the gender perspective. And also serve in public in empowering women to undertake science-related subjects. That is, we have some initiatives which have championed in encouraging STEM education in Tanzania. So, please, I welcome the speakers, and I would like to take this opportunity to welcome them and that they introduce themselves, because we should, in the interest of languages, diversity in languages, I would like them to introduce themselves briefly. You're welcome. We start from the other end. Please.
Bonjour, moi je suis Ini Damien, Neyoul, la présidente de l'association pour la promotion féminine de Gawa au Burkina Faso. Je suis enseignante de formation au service de la promotion de l'éducation inclusive et de l'éducation des filles et du genre au niveau du ministère de l'éducation de mon pays. Je suis membre fondatrice de plusieurs organisations pour améliorer les conditions de vie
that are working to improve the conditions of women in the southeast region. I'm also an entrepreneur, but I would like to stop there for the moment.
Thank you very much, In. And
good afternoon. My name is Professor Ruth Meena, political scientist by background. I'm a retiree from University of Dar es Salaam, but currently I'm chairing the Women Coalition on Constitutionalism in Tanzania. I'm also chairperson of Women Fund in Tanzania, and co-owner and director of Ryder School of Journalism and Media Studies. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bonjour. Je vais casser le rythme, je vais faire en français. Donc je me présente, je m'appelle
My name is Munamina Afelivo. I am an advisor in matters to do with gender in Nigeria and demographic issues. I'm also a trainer in feminine leadership, and also I'm a trainer in income generating activities that I do in the rural zone, and for the other activities that I do, I'm also involved in the field of policies. I'm in charge of communication with the ruling party of my country, and finally I am a member of the women's organization of NGOs in Nigeria. Thank you.
Next, please. Thank you. Bonjour and
good afternoon.
my name is Gloria Kwanzaa. I'm a medical doctor by profession, and I work with the Ghana Health Service, the agency, public health agency of the Ministry of Health of Ghana. I'm the Deputy Director General. My background has been in public health, and I've worked vastly in reproductive and child health, as well as population and women's issues. I am a past member of the Executive Board of Reproductive Health Supplies Coalition, and in Ghana I also lecture part-time in the schools of public health, some schools of public health. I'm a fellow of the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Bonjour à tous, je suis Alexia Montondi.
Good afternoon, my name is Alexia. I'm a mathematics teacher by training. I'm also an ambassador for the reproductive health. I'm also a member of the youth parliament in my country.
Good afternoon.
My name is Radhika Doda. I am with the Sudan National Academy of Sciences. My PhD is in software engineering, and my base degree is computer science. I teach, and I also get involved with civil society.
So thank you very much, speakers, and now I take this opportunity again to welcome Madam In, so that she can take us through focusing on those issues you have enlightened, and I hope we have to take about 10 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes, please. Welcome.
Skip some of the slides.
Who started? Madam In.
Alors, merci.
Thank you. As far as I'm concerned, in relation to the local and international role of women, I would first like to talk about the role of the woman, and we need to go back to the history. The role of a woman in our society. What is the status of a woman in our society? We know that even at an early age, women were considered to be women, mothers who were educated so that they can educate their children. So even at a very young age, girls grew up with this mentality. And during this time, if this young child gets the opportunity to go to school, she'll get an opening. And I'm talking about education. Now let's talk about the role of women. It is this opening at school that is going to start her preparation to give her the possibility of managing well her traditional role, trying to focus on what is positive, and also to rate the benefit of education. And concerning the society that we have created in 1992, the objective is to improve the life conditions of women in the rural area. What have we done? We had to find a strategy that would improve the conditions of women. So how did we start? So that the woman plays her role in this modern society, and I'm talking of these women who live in the rural areas. So we started with income generating activities, and like I said, it was the starting point, and once you are able to achieve that, we developed some synergies of 3 components: the social development of the woman, the economic activities, and the management of natural resources. So with all these 3 components, which are interconnected, we managed to have good results. So we first started with the needs of these women. So we started by taking interest in what they were doing economically, and then we proceeded to training. So during these trainings, we tried to understand their situation well. If I can cite the example of female genital mutilation, we were able to address this issue and have good results. And how did we do it? We tried to conduct more than 30 studies, and today I have women who are practicing female genital mutilation who have changed their mentalities, and now they are educators in their country, in their society, and now they are even in the development committees of their societies, and they participate in the decision making at the village level. That's why I can passionately talk about the role of the woman. So what mechanisms did we put in place so that this woman could contribute to the local development as well as the national development? So that's how we proceeded with our work. In terms of activities, we ourselves, so that the woman can be independent, so we were able to put in place a system of credit, because we've always talked about access to credit for women, which in most cases is difficult. They are not able to access these financial resources. So we are able to put in place our own system of credit. So we are calling them a credit of proximity, and today I can tell you that we are managing to help more than 1,000 women per year. We started in a small way, and these 1,000 women per year, the system on this procedure, when we give them this credit, so the woman can ask for this loan twice. So we tried to help the woman and make her independent economically speaking, and that is one of the examples. And also the processing of local products, so that they can be able to consume what they are producing, starting by appreciating them. So we organized the collection of the harvesting of these products, the processing. So we put in place an organization, and today these women are managing their own associations and they're doing well in life. And if I talk about health, the family planning, I can give you an example about family planning. At the beginning, when we went to do some awareness in the villages, men, because when we talked about the spacing of children, the content of the message wasn't rhyming well with their mentalities. They thought that we didn't want them to have sexual intercourse or even have children. So we tried to work with these men and the village elders, and that's how we were able to properly explain to them and make them understand our work. And they were talking about castrating the man, but which was not the case. And now we have women who are working, but we still have a problem of women who are not cooperating with them. They don't want to leave them to work. But finally, most of them have understood the contribution of women. So I think I still have a lot of things to say, but I only had 10 minutes. And talking about change, I have to say that in our countries, behavioral change, we have to say that there's a political will in our countries. We have all these systems that are defending women's rights at the national and international level. So now what you're trying to do is to really propagate these informations. So the problem is there is a big difference between the decisions taken and the implementation. It is upon us to implement all these good measures to improve the situation of women. Thank you so much. And I would like to stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that presentation. And I think we should do, after one presentation, we can chip in some questions or comments. Just two from the floor. Yes, please. You say your name and you put forward your comment.
I'm Judith Lungu from Zambia Academy of Sciences. I want to ask her, how did she decide the type of income generating activities that they would support, and how did they make sure that the money raised or the activities that were done by those women who got the loan, the money was not taken away by the men? Because I know we did a project where the women got goats, but the men were the ones who were deciding and using it on other wives. Thank you.
Thank you. Another question, please, or comment, input? One left for the floor. Okay, thank you. It means everything is okay. Somebody? Oh, please, madam. Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay. Bon, la première question, c'est comment nous avons...
My first question is how we identify the activities, the income generating activities. It's what I was saying, that the activities, these were the activities that these women were already doing and they liked. So we started with the activities that were of interest to them, and to make sure that these activities were prosperous, we did it very progressively, and that's why we put in place this structure of loans, which helped these women access the loans, so that, and they were also trained so that they were able to diversify the activities. So it was them who were choosing these activities, but we helped them through training for a better management of their resources, to make the difference between the capital and the profit and the dynamics of the market. So we did this kind of training. And now the question about the management of the money. Yes, the money is well managed, in the sense that in my region, these women were keeping their money in their houses, and progressively we told them that there were risks of theft at home, so they had to keep this money in financial institutions. So they opened accounts for themselves, and this is to answer the question that was asking if men were not using this money. So they have their own accounts. Thank you.
Very much. There is another question from Madam. Just one in brief, please.
La dernière question. C'est laquelle? La dernière question,
my question goes to Madam. Can I ask it?
Yes, please. Ask one question. A brief one.
Yes, you can ask.
Je pose la question. You just speak in French.
I will speak in French. I would like to ask you, madam, I would like to ask you how you manage to protect the group of women in relation to their production, because what we find in other countries, in structures of their rural areas, we work on cashew nuts, and in the big towns, women manage to distribute or export their products from their rural areas, but they can only do it in a limited manner. So how did you manage to help them find a solution so that they do it in a more efficient manner? It is true that money is not necessarily taken by men, but in the family context, when a woman starts having revenues, normally they are told now to take care of everything in the house, and the men decide to sit back. Have you seen these such cases in your context? So concerning the products, we have types of products that are local, so there are a lot of products. So we managed to tell the women that what you are producing you must consume, and that constitutes a market. So they sell these products between themselves, and that eliminates the worry of transport to transfer these products far. So 90% of the population consumes these products, and this is what enables them to process these products locally. They make soaps, they make creams, and a lot of things with the secondary products. And now, the other question was concerning, I can't remember. The women are independent, and therefore they can send their children to school if their husbands do not want to do it, so they are able to do it themselves.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam In. Now we are moving to Professor Ruth Mena. She will take us through as far as local and national roles of women in development, her experience. So let us listen to her. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When you talk of women in development, or their role in development is very broad. I have two categories of their role within our country, but also it could be global. Women, when you take Tanzania for instance, women are majority when compared to men. There are two main roles which I would categorize: the biological reproductive role and the productive activities. Tanzania has a young population. When you look at our population pyramid, Tanzania is a young population. What does that mean? But also we have highest teenage pregnancies in this country. But additionally, almost half of the women, out of 100,000, almost 500 lose their lives due to complications in delivery. So in terms of reproducing the labor force, the human beings, the burden is heavy for women, and it is costing them their lives. Secondly, there is the burden of care. When you have a young population, it means women, the unpaid care work is heavier for women. We have some studies which we conducted on the care burden, and it came out that it was realized that men spend a total of 5% of their day on unpaid work. This is a study by our National Bureau of Statistics. It's not only a small study. Compared to 14% for females, which is, for men is less than an hour and a half per day. For women, it means 3 hours and a half per day. This means women are doing 3/4 of what is considered to be unpaid care work. What did we do? Because what did we do on that one? Some of our advocacy activities, we advocated for incorporation of a time use module in our national statistics. What is the value of that? It means valuing what women are and investing more in the care burden. After that, I think there has been some recognition, let's say officially, of the unpaid care work, and some of the policies, because initially there was, when HIV pandemic was at its peak, be cared for, and that is what pushed us into saying, no, this is pushing additional labor to an already overburdened women, and that has been related to it is also advocate activities for gender budgeting. We were able to work with the Ministry of Finance to include in their gender. It's a long story, but at the end of it, it was possible for them to include a guideline in their budget guidelines that every sector ministry has to do gender budgeting, which means that when you budget, you have to be conscious that men and women in this country have different needs, have different roles, which have to be recognized, but also where investment has to go. That is one area. But also when you consider women in the agricultural sector, we know women are farmers, are producers, women are workers or actors, they are entrepreneurs in the agricultural sector. The majority of women are feeding the population. But then they own less of the land, they have less access to financial resources, and the processing of raw material, they sell their unprocessed products to the market, and this does affect all the initiatives of addressing rural-related poverty. Some of our advocacy activities was to push for a more progressive law whereby women who would have same right, because within our patriarchal traditional structures, women would work on land which they don't own. We have been able to push for a more progressive law, although translating it into legal practices is still a problem. And this is an area when we were going through a constitutional process which has been stalled, there was a very progressive clause which provides equal rights for women and men in terms of access and ownership of land. That is one area I wanted to chip in. The second area is women in leadership positions. When you look at various positions, women are less. Let's take the executive, which is the highest position. We have had no woman president, and until recently when we have a vice president, that top level position has always been a male-controlled monopoly. In terms of ministers, the ministerial positions, and I won't talk about deputy ministers because a deputy minister doesn't have really powers of making decisions. In terms of ministerial positions, we have had like a wave whereby between 2010 to 2012, 27% of the ministers, full cabinet ministers, were women. But then that has been deteriorating over a period I think today we have less than 26%. There has been a decline in that area. What is its implication in terms of development? I think it might be subject to discussion. In the sector of justice, the justice sector, women are also underrepresented in the Court of Appeal. Currently, the Court of Appeal has 17 judges, among whom 12 are men and 5 are women, which means 70% of our justices at the highest level are men and 29% are women. In the High Court, up to 2016, had 79 judges, among whom 46 are men and 33 are women, which represents only 41%. It's higher than the top level. But what does it translate to when it comes to accessing justice to all? If we could go down to the ladder, and particularly in traditional systems where even modern law does not function, it's traditional law which is discriminative, you find that accessing to justice is an issue in this country. In terms of political parties, until now, we don't have any political party with a woman chairperson in all the 19 political parties. Despite that, you know, with the introduction of multi-party system, the rhetoric of democracy by our political, particularly the opposition parties, is there. But when you look at internal processes, that does not exist in terms of women participating. And it is in all levels, even the top level executives of the party, regional level positions. What is this inequality? We could go into all the sectors in terms of leadership. There is wide gap between men and women. What is the implication of the trends in development of a country like us, but also in the development of this African continent? In the one hand, it means the human rights of women are denied. Our nations are losing out in terms of human resource utilization, human capital, which is a factor needed in eliminating poverty, but also initiatives of attaining both the macro level indicators and SDGs, which our governments have signed, are frustrated because they are undermined because of the inequalities. In terms of political or leadership participation, what have we done in terms of advocating for reducing the numbers? In the first place, for the political participation, we advocated for affirmative action, which worked gradually, but I think just now it is working against us, because instead of creating an environment where women and men can compete in the constituencies, now women are being pushed into the affirmative actions. Even those who are capable of being able to compete, the political environment, the competitive, the play field is yet to be evened. So the majority of our women go for what we call special seats, which then undermines the initial thrust of introducing an affirmative action, which was supposed to be a temporary measure to rectify the historical
Thank you. We'll come back to you later, Prof. We'll come back to you later.
No, I'm finishing. I'm finishing with that. I'm saying the inequalities have a challenge to the development agenda, and what to do, I think it's upon us to discuss. Thank you.
Professor, thank you. Anybody with any burning issue to address? Yes, madam, there? Yes, you?
Thank you very much, Ms. Chair. My name is Hanan. I am from Sudan. I've got two short questions. Please, number one, do you think that women do not go to the top position? Is it by choice, or is it because they were not given a chance? Another question is, I always relate women with ethics and integrity. So many times, for example, if I'm offered a job in a political party, I wouldn't take it because I consider our political parties are very corrupt, and I wouldn't like to go into that position. So many times, I think women do not go to higher positions only because of our corrupt system in
particularly where it doesn't relate to ethics and integrity. Do you think that is true, or is it of my own imagination? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another question, please. It's come from a man. Yes, please.
Thank you. My name is Banyalazi Papani from Botswana Academy of Sciences. I have just one question for Prof. We know Africa as a continent, and even our different countries within the continent, that we are one religious continent. We have both our traditional religions and also those which are imported, like Christianity and Islam and many others which we import from other continents. So I want you to comment on how religion is directly or indirectly shaping stereotypes on which roles women should or should not play in Africa, in our different countries, and what should be done to change the negative stereotypes that then end up making women not to go into some of the roles that their male counterparts are going into. Thank you.
Thank you. Prof, just briefly respond to the questions.
Okay, thank you. I think the first one, she almost answered it, that is it a choice or is it because of the systematic discriminative practices which then force women not to choose to enter politics? When you have dirty politics, where there is a lot of abuse, we did study our election systems where women are abused to the core, where there is a lot of violence, why would one choose to enter into that scenario? And I think the solution is, let's fight for politics where people fights are based on ideological differences, but not based on sexist or discriminative practices. So unless we clean up the system so that we are able to compete fully, I don't think it is going to help us in entering that game and engaging in that game. How is religion impacting women's participation? Sometimes it's how we interpret religion, our own interpretations of religion. For instance, I'm a Christian, where marriage, suppose somebody says, you know, the man is the head of the house and the woman is the man is the head, the woman is the body. Where on earth, and then he says the man should love the wife as Christ loved the church. How did this Jesus love the church? He was humble, he sacrificed, he died for his people. And also, even if you were to take a Quran, I'm not a Muslim, but you will excuse me. In terms of marriage, the Muslims asked Muhammad, how many women should I be able to marry? What did he say? 4. In as long as you can divide your heart in 4, treat them equally. Which man on this world will be able to divide his heart in 4? In other words, it is not possible.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I think we can continue later on. And now I call upon Madam Mona to take us through what she has prepared for us. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. But I apologize, I will continue in French as the time is short, so I can go fast. Mesdames et messieurs, bonjour. J'ai le plaisir aujourd'hui de partager avec vous l'expérience du Niger par rapport au rôle des femmes dans le développement. Mais avant, je tiens plutôt à présenter un peu le Niger pour ceux qui ne le connaissent pas, pour comprendre mieux la suite. Donc le Niger, c'est un pays de l'Afrique de l'Ouest avec 1 267 000 km², 19 millions d'habitants, 52% de femmes, 60% de jeunes, et à 90% musulmans, un climat chaud, saison pluvieuse de mai à septembre. On a un taux de fécondité, je pense qu'on en a déjà parlé le premier jour, de 7,8 enfants par femme. 30% des filles sont mariées avant l'âge de 15 ans. 75% des filles sont mariées avant l'âge de 18 ans. Le taux de scolarisation au primaire est de 63% pour les garçons et les filles, dont 44% pour les filles et 56% pour les garçons. Et le taux d'alphabétisation, il est de 31%. Avant de passer au rôle, je pense qu'il est important de voir, de faire un constat sur la situation de la femme nigérienne. La femme nigérienne a beaucoup de problèmes. Elle souffre de mariage précoce. Le mariage précoce des filles avant l'âge de 15 ans. Nous avons des cas de violence, nous avons des cas de stigmatisation, nous avons des cas de discrimination, nous avons beaucoup de cas aussi de surcharge de travail. Pourquoi je parle de toutes ces questions-là? Parce que la femme au Niger n'arrive pas à avancer. Il faut déjà préciser que 60% de ces femmes-là sont des femmes rurales qui travaillent la terre ou qui font de l'embauche. Alors, on a essayé de mobiliser ces femmes-là en groupement dans certaines régions du Niger pour qu'elles exercent une activité génératrice de revenus d'une part, mais aussi qu'elles fassent aussi une place dans les instances de prise de décision d'autre part. Pour les activités génératrices de revenus, c'était un peu facile parce qu'il y avait un travail qui a été fait au préalable. On a expliqué aux femmes que faire des activités génératrices de revenus les aide à se développer, à développer aussi leur pays, ça diminue les charges de la famille. Mais au niveau politique, c'est devenu un peu difficile parce que ceux qui prennent les décisions, c'est souvent des hommes, mais les hommes ne comprennent pas
the men, and these men don't understand women's problems. It's only women who can understand their problems. So there was the necessity for them to being together, but unfortunately we faced a lot of obstacles related to customs and religion. In the customs,
notre voisin du Burkina, il traverse aussi la même chose. Et peut-être même de la religion, la femme a sa place seulement au foyer. Elle n'a pas le droit de parler, elle n'a pas le droit de sortir, elle n'a pas le droit de s'exprimer, elle n'a pas le droit de faire le travail de la maison. Et ça, je suppose que c'est seulement un devoir. On a essayé d'approcher les leaders religieux et les leaders coutumiers pour leur expliquer en fait que la femme cachée là où elle est, elle ne peut pas avancer. Et aujourd'hui, le Niger ayant 52% de femmes, c'est une chance pour nous d'avoir tout ce taux-là et en bénéficier en contribuant au développement. C'était un peu difficile parce qu'on allait, comme le disaient certains leaders, à l'encontre de la coutume et à l'encontre de la religion. Ce qu'ils expliquaient, c'est que, de par certaines explications, parce que je vous explique, au Niger, on a un problème. Tout celui qui descend le Coran, pour lui, il est leader religieux. Mais en réalité, le problème se pose au niveau de l'interprétation du Coran en lui-même. Il y a cette difficulté. Ils interprètent le Coran de la façon qui arrange l'homme, mais jamais la femme. Quand ils prennent par exemple le verset dans le Coran de la sourate la femme, et on dit l'homme aura à 4 femmes, mais je complète, a man can marry up to 4 women, but he must love and treat them in the same manner. So if he buys a present for one woman, he should do the same for the rest. But when we talk about this, they forget all the rest, and women also don't go beyond this point because they are not well informed and they don't even have access to these informations. So they only have to follow what has been explained to them, and it's because the tradition, the customs, and the religion does not give them the right to express themselves, to interrogate all these issues, and therefore it was very complicated for us who wanted to bring change to talk to these women without going through
the men who were giving them these misleading informations. So it led to a lot of problems and confusion, but we were not discouraged. We tried to train the women, but going through the husbands. So we started by putting in place a school for husbands. So we summoned them, talked to them, tried to explain to them the advantage of having their women participating in the economic world, because they also have the right to express themselves. They are the pillar of the family. It is them who should play the most important role. And therefore, in Niger, that's why today we have 52% of women who are emancipated, who are educated, and therefore they have the ability to think and express themselves when they're given the opportunity. And therefore it's very easy for them to organize themselves. And concerning what followed, we decided to put in place a national policy on gender, and it is a policy that was meant to support women in many sectors politically, so that she can also make decisions, political decisions, and we try to enable her to participate in the process of decision making and also be present in the society, not hidden like it was before. And this is happening in the big towns, but in the rural areas it is still very difficult, such that we even have difficulties in accessing these women. Those whose husbands understood our work, it became easy, but for those whose husbands didn't want to understand, it was very difficult. So we had to go back to the religious and the traditional leaders to ask them their opinion concerning our discussions and our work. And people were telling them that they should not listen to us because we had not read the Quran. And that's why I was saying that we are 80%, the population is 80% Muslim, and therefore it's a big challenge. But we continue to explain to them that marginalizing women was not a solution, because they had their contribution to development. And I must say that Niger is a member of Organization of United Nations. And even when, we noticed that the women also are not able to express themselves, even when they are victims of discrimination and sexual harassment at work. It is always very difficult for them to express themselves, to raise their voices, but we are trying to support them and push them to denounce such bad practices. Permettez-moi de conclure. And therefore, in this regard, we talked about the problem of fertility that is very high in Niger, the problem of discrimination. So currently we are trying to handle this question, this issue of a national policy on gender that will also mainstream the international laws. Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Mona.
Request maybe one or two input, comment your question, please, from the floor. Yes, please.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Sarah Tibe from Botswana. I just arrived when I met a very interesting topic. Mine is just a comment about women and leadership, especially politics. The other things that are putting women behind is finances. If you will see that politics are very expensive for you to campaign, and men are using their power muscle when you are in a family. I remember there's one example which one lady gave before. He said the husband went out to campaign, and by the time he's finished campaigning, he has lost, and he couldn't even win the elections. And then he told the wife that if it was you, I would divorce you. You can just imagine. It shows how unequal we are, and people view us as. And the wife asked, why will you divorce me? Because you are supposed to be the caregiver of the family. I trust that you won't play with your money. That's what it is.
Thank you for that. And somebody, you have raised your hand, madam. Welcome.
My name is Hanifa Selengo from Tanzania, from the Ministry of Health, Community Development, Gender and Children. First of all, I congratulate all panelists for their concern of women. My concern is about tradition versus religious versus women development, especially from Niger. They said their constraints is about religious beliefs for the women. So I can advise, and this is a challenge also to all Muslim communities, that it's better to educate women in formal education and religious education properly, so that if women is educated properly in the Muslim or Quran, they can interpret better than leave to men who are misinterpreted. So if women are educated well, means they are high level of education, from one, they have a better position to voice it about religious issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Without doing much ado, I thank you for that input, but I think we wouldn't like to put some more discrimination. I think both of them should be educated so that they go together, they move together, other than, you know.
Yeah, but I would like to explain something for both of them, because I think for the first lady there, thank you for your contribution. Really, for campaigns, they need too much money. But in Niger, what we did this 2 last years, when they want to go to campaign, they collect the money between them. The women, they are really, really very organized. So when they collect, but they make a big campaign to be sure that they will win. And you know the problem between the men and women. Women are very organized, and the husband didn't use women to campaign. This is the first issue in Niger. In Niger, when you don't use women to campaign, so you will not win. Be sure. Why? Because when you go to vote, you will find a line of men, maybe 10 men, but the line of women will be you will find 100. You see, so you have more voters, women as men. Okay? And for the second lady, thank you. It was a problem we faced. In the past years, we had Muslim centers known and validated by the Ministry of Religion. So in these years, some new centers opened. And due to the high country we have and the space we have, women prefer to go to the nearest center to learn. But we cannot control what they are hearing there, what they are learning exactly there. So after when they maybe in preach or something like this, they meet maybe in a big conference room like this one. And when they start to share some information, they find that they have a different opinion. And in Islam, it's difficult to find different opinion, because we are going with Quran. And the Quran, we don't have many versions of Quran, we have just one version, you see? So this is what we are fighting now. Just to see who is telling something correct and who is telling wrong to fight this.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification.
Yeah.
Now I welcome Madam Gloria so that she can take us through and give us the experience in Ghana. Thank you. PowerPoint and I'll try and run through it.
We're told 15 minutes, but I'll run through it. Yes, I'll run through it.
About 10
this
minutes,
is
please.
Ghana. The population, we have about 28 million, now about 29 million. Life expectancy, 51% are women, but it keeps changing as we do the intercensal estimates, but it's roughly 50-50. Life expectancy at birth is 61 for both sexes, 59.8 for men, and 62.3 for women. Maternal mortality ratio was 319 per 100,000 2015, and infant mortality rate is 50 per 1,000 live births from the Demographic and Health Survey 2014. And there are very wide disparities. You can see that there are 10 administrative regions and 216 districts. We just celebrated our 61st independence anniversary. Ghana has been part of all the international laws and regulations concerning human rights and women. And just to take it, we went through CEDAW in 1967, and then as women and development came in the 1970s, it was based mainly on economic gain or economic contribution of women to development. We realized, the whole world realized that was not enough. We have to look at the social construct, making gender very important. We moved to gender and development, and then now after the 1990s we are in rights and then equity. So with Ghana, we have a lot of documents that I've listed up here. We are also part of affirmative action, looking for 40% of women in decision-making bodies. Electoral Commission is encouraging parties to have 30% at district assemblies. We have a national mainstreaming policy since 2004, and we have a women's manifesto, political documents done by women. We have a lot of actions that have been taken by the country. Our 1992 constitution looks at really equality, women's equality with male counterparts, giving rights to work without discrimination, and sex, religion, all of that. And then we are looking at having women also in decision-making bodies like the boardrooms, parliament, executive councils. So succeeding governments have adopted and incorporated all of these, and we have quite a number of women increasing in decision-making positions, and injustice, demographic dividend, strategic plan, access to financial assistance in industry, etc. There are efforts made to make sure that women are also included. So the role of women in society throughout history, the central role of women has ensured stability, progress, and long-term development of nations. So we know that quality of populace depends largely on nurturing of the children. The household is also the primary producer of health. So an empowered and educated woman impacts positively on the health and survival of her family. So we have the common proverb, charity begins at home. Ghanaian leaders throughout history have recognized the importance of women. We have a very famous quote from Dr. Kwejiri Agri in the early 1990s, that if you educate a man, you educate an individual, but if you educate a woman, you educate a whole nation. That has been ringing through our development, and I think you will all attest to that. Our first president also made statements about inclusive women being included as equal partners in a lot of his statements. Now United Nations former Secretary General Kofi Annan also is a Ghanaian, and through the Millennium Development Goals, he also said if we want to address poverty, then we have to make sure that we promote women's rights and greater investment in education and health, including reproductive health and family planning. So in Ghana, the roles of women are many, and they are listed there. Women can do anything that men do, but they can be mothers as well, which no one else can do. And they can even be warriors. We have a very important history of Nanaya Santua, a lady who after the Ashanti Kingdom, the kings had been taken to Seychelles on exile. This lady stood up among men and made sure that they fight the British governor from taking the Ashanti golden stool. This is a history, and it's like Joan of Arc with the Romans. So women can also be advisors and warriors, and we have traditional queen mothers who also advise and are custodians of culture. So at the community level, we have women's groups working. We have the Red Cross, examples of the Red Cross having mother support groups. We have pregnancy schools to promote healthy lifestyle and pregnancy outcomes, where we invite the men to also come and learn about the pregnancy with their wives. That has worked a lot. And then we have what we call community health planning and services, where we build compounds and place community health officers in the communities to serve them during home visits. That is our Universal National Commission on Civic Education, Office of the Speaker of Parliament. The former one was a woman. Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Ghana AIDS Commission, Accountant General. All the many big places have women heading. So you can see a parade of first ladies and second ladies all here, the Chief Justice, and they all contribute a lot to women and development. So when it comes to the challenges, we see, as I'm saying it looks very rosy, but we identify with all the issues that women have at the various levels. But we have a lot of challenges as women, and women have do significant unpaid work. Those of us who are working have to change shifts for housework or after work and combine them. Workplaces are not very conducive for breastfeeding or daycare or other concerns that a mother or a woman may have. There are still a lot of subtle discrimination at workplaces. There's work politics, and there's also politics in the communities and the homes that we have to deal with. And women are generally unable to support and mentor other women, because when they get high up there, they are struggling to maintain what they have, and it's something that we have to do as women. So there are a lot of disparities. Even though we can boast of women in high places, still the disparities exist, and it is for all of us to join to make this work. Now, the role of men has been very important. Men and boys have had a great role to play. We have examples of men as partners in reproductive health, where I've already talked about the pregnancy schools. When the man brings the baby, the wife and the baby to the facilities, usually they are given first option. So when you come with your husband, you are seen first, the long line, and the other women get angry, those who don't have husbands and men to bring. But it is a way of also promoting them. We have a lot of innovations that we have done, and the things are not the same across board, even though we have the same issues. Sometimes we have to go into the communities and do a lot of research. These days we do a lot of implementation research to ensure that we are able to get what will really work. And when we do it, as we solve the problems with the communities, we are able to negotiate with the men and empower the women. So we should look at men all ages of men and all generations of men. We should be all inclusive, and in all our policies we do not leave the man behind or the boy child behind, even though we have to bridge the gap. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for observing time, madam. And I think we have a lot to learn here from Ghana. But is there any addition from the floor? I should take that, ladies.
Thank you. My question is, in case of maternal mortality, I'm here. In case of maternal mortality, it's always the daughter who has to look after her younger siblings, and she sacrifices her education, she sacrifices her life for her younger siblings, but it's never an elder brother, it's always the girl, the sister. Is there anything that's being done, and what we could do about this, basically?
Professor?
Yeah, madam, thanks. My name is Micheka from Kenya. Just a small, thank you very much for the paper, really. Is Ghana, as I know, is maternal. Many other countries are paternal, and the roles vary. Maybe you can comment on the differences, because you seem to have done quite a bit of higher stepping because of your maternal in nature, whereas other countries are paternal.
Thank you very much. Can you please very briefly respond to these two comments or questions?
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, unfortunately, the girl child is usually the one who takes care of people. But we have done a lot of advocacy on girl child education. Even there was a song which everyone can sing some years back, and people are identifying with it. And even if the district, even the education system, if a girl child does not come to school or something, they are supposed to follow up and find out what is happening. So a lot has gone on through the education system. There is still a lot to be done, and we need to sensitize the families, as was said earlier. Okay, then with the matrilineal. The matrilineal is a system of inheritance. We have both matrilineal and patrilineal inheritance. Some tribes are matrilineal. You inherit from your mother, and others are patrilineal. You inherit from the father. But because of the new systems that we are having, the nucleus family, those inheritances are sort of fizzling off. People are caring for their own children, as well as taking care of their extended family, but it's not affecting them too much. It's only in chieftaincy and other things. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gloria. And now I welcome Alexia to give us something.
Ok, merci Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Que puis-je dire
What can I say after all that my colleagues have said? I should say that they've said
donc je pense que je vais plutôt m'appesantir sur la situation
but I'm going to talk about the girl child situation.
Et c'est aussi la situation
it is the situation for people who are not married, and it is affecting thousands of girls in my country. What is the role of women today? Today, the young girls are mothers, they are wives, they are traders, they are in cooperatives. What is the role that we want to play tomorrow? Everyone is clear. We need to get more power. We need to be present in political positions. They need to be professors in universities, professors, engineers and others. What is the challenge? It is to use their rights. And here something is disturbing me. There is the Declaration of Human Rights that says every human being, we are born equal. And from this declaration, I think all other protocols are not very strong. And if we can only respect the Declaration of Human Rights, I think there will be no discrimination. Because in Benin, just one article can protect all the other rights. The others are just mere talk. So we should respect our constitution. But we have some cultural disparities, and that's where maybe we need to be very careful. The young girls today have 4 big challenges: access to their rights, the issues of access to reproductive health, empowerment.
Qu'est-ce que nous pouvons faire en tant que femmes au niveau local pour améliorer la
access to their rights?
Nous sommes dans des associations comme moi. Nous pouvons faire de la
associations like me, we can sensitize, we can even make advocacy, we can lobby. So I can call upon the scientific community to help us develop scientific arguments that can succeed to convince our politicians. Maybe the way with which we request for our right is not accepted. This is the time to request to the scientific community to review all that. Health and the well-being of the girls. These are services, these are products, and also a political issue. At the local level, we can discuss with the health agents or the nurses, the doctors, and to review the way they receive the young girls who are visiting different centers when they want to talk about STIs or pregnancies, or maybe they want to have access to condoms. At the national level, we need to act on policies. And this is what I'm requesting to women who have the chance to succeed, to be supportive and to play more, especially in the area of advocacy. Because if we remain in our different positions, I think we should think about the administrative procedures that can stop us from moving forward. So we need to take this
l'éducation aujourd'hui des jeunes filles au Bénin est encore
young girls in Benin are facing the challenge of accessing to
les violences. Bon, dans une certaine mesure, c'est la pauvreté qui
also there is poverty that cannot allow to parents to satisfy the needs of their young girls. What we can do for these girls who are forced to leave school? They are children of 14, 15 years. What can we do in order for these children improve their lives? What can we do to our educative system? Who can allow them to make the best choice at that period and not to fall, not to be pregnant? Last thing is the empowerment. The educative system as it is today is not for everyone today, because not everyone can become an engineer, not everyone can go to school. So what can we do in order to take into account these girls in the formal system so that no one be left behind? So I think the scientific community can also think and see how they can give techniques and and capacities to these women to take care of themselves. So the area on which we need to work is empowerment, because when a woman is getting her own money, she can claim more rights and more access to express what she thinks. Another value that in which I believe as a teacher, because I went to school and this is what I use. I see every day the power that I drew from that. So education.
Oh, 1 minute. 1 minute. En fait, juste pour vraiment vous demander de réfléchir sur l'éducation.
We need to think about education. Lastly,
le rôle des hommes.
The role of men.
Pour moi, c'est
for me, it is about 4 things that I'm going to give. First of all, they need to also help in housework. Women spend more time to do the housework during the day. And something that young boys can do, and that does not mean money, is to help their young sisters to do the housework, and also to support, to understand, and to act for the women. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now I welcome any burning issue, please, before I call upon Madam Ghana. Just one, please. Yes, Madam.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and I thank the panelists for their contributions. The last speaker raised a lot of issues and raised a lot of indicators that need to be addressed to inform policy. And I just want to make a recommendation here that we need a gender-sensitive statistics that we can put in place so that we go and check the different indicators and look at where weaknesses are to inform policy so that they can make informed decisions. And this is, I think, is an important aspect in terms of educating, in terms of who participates in economic, in terms of political engagements. So we need a bank of gender-sensitive statistics to inform policy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any burning issue? A gentleman now, please.
Thank you. I have 3 things I want to just highlight in 1 minute.
Very brief, please.
One is we are talking about the role of women, and I'm looking at our statistics, and perhaps Ghana and the last speaker can share the experiences. Women are in most cases, they're either the majority voters or just almost half of the voters of the population. And in Kenya, we have 47 counties, 21 counties, women are the majority. Unfortunately, we have only 2 governors. Yet, women can make a change. Second thing, women in Africa are the custodians of our values. Our children, our young men, our families, the values that are inculcated at the family level. There are women who does that, yet we talk of the things that come after that. The other thing that came out from, I think it was from Ghana and the last speaker, was about the economic power of women. We acknowledge women, most of them are in the unpaid work. They do jobs that either are unpaid or they don't get sufficient pay. What we as leaders, we as people who have made it, are we coming up and with programs and pushing even governments with policies that will change this type of work so that then our women can be empowered, and by that then change the narrative that is around women. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think those are comments to be taken on board, and I think all speakers will consider that as they
go back home. Thank you.
Yes, Madam.
Thank you, Madam. I'm going to build on the previous speaker because I'm going to focus on empowerment, women empowerment. And I'm going to present actually a kind of a counter-narrative to the concept of women empowerment and how it's used. I'm going to start by this quote that I love very much from Simone de Beauvoir. One is not born, but rather becomes a woman. And I think, this quote really sums up my presentation. I can stop here and leave. For those who don't know her, she's a French writer, philosopher, intellectual. But she's telling us that she's presenting this statement about human freedom in which women struggle against the apparent disadvantages of the female body. And she's challenging the very concept of woman and saying that it is male constructed. And women come out to accept the meanings that are given by patriarchal society and what it accords to them. So what would Simone say about the term women empowerment? At least she knows the need for it starts when we are born. I'm going to start at an early, this is an example from the curriculum of primary school for first primary and second primary school, and I've translated it here. So an example in the Arabic language for first primary class, the boys raised, the girls watched. In the kitchen topic for second primary, you can see that the women are in the kitchen. It's reinforcing and the stereotypes. So my father came from the market carrying meat. This is Zainab, a young woman is talking, carrying meat and vegetables. My brother Hassan went to the shop, bought oil, paid for it, and brought the remaining money. Agency. My mother took the oil, meat, and vegetables and went into the kitchen. Hassan said, my mother prepares food. Zainab said, I helped my mother in the kitchen. I wash the dishes. So that really gets implanted in the girls' minds from a very young age. And we end up with the world's problems. Poverty, many people here have said that we carry the brunt of it. And this actually, thanks to the UN Women, and I applaud them because they managed to look at these Sustainable Development Goals in different African countries, and with the poverty of data that we have. And you could see from this graph, it's talking about the femininity index, which is about the parity between male and female in terms of their income from the same age group. So it shows here, for example, that in Africa, in most regions there is a parity, but in the 25 to 34 you can see that sub-Saharan Africa here is this pink, and the parity exceeds. The UN Women report is asking a very interesting question, why the parity is down when we get older. And there is, it would be interesting to see what hypotheses are there. In terms of climate change, I also picked up this graph from there where they are looking at agriculture, the proportion of women working in agriculture, which obviously shows how much they are relying on the natural resources, and obviously climate change would affect them. So the straight lines are the women and the dotted lines are the men, and you could see almost in most regions except Australia and New Zealand right at the bottom is mostly women are employed more in agriculture. In conflict, it goes without saying, we bear the brunt of what happens from the displacement and the violent situation that exists with the war. In empowering women, what have we been doing? We've been Ria Cornwell and Deborah Ade. So I've traced the history of empowerment and where it came from a theoretical perspective. And most people point to feminism and point to Ferreri's critical pedagogy, that these two together came up, helped feminists, especially in the third wave and the global south, to grab that concept going to the gender equality measurement until we are now. These are cycles. What could we see after the gender inequality index? This map or timeline is usually done as a collective, and people put their knowledge together and try and see the patterns, see what's happening, see we're going in cycles, see what triggers change, and basically help that change. So I'm not going to dwell so much on it, but I think it's a tool for us to use. I am going now into my main part, which is I'm going to give an example of two stories of empowerment. One is Harvard University for Women. It was established in 1966 in Omdurman, Sudan. It's a very popular university. It's one of our national prides in the education of women. They have started that basically for women. So the students actually took banners and went to the Vice Chancellor office and to say sorry, basically. Father, Vice Chancellor, we are very sorry, and so on. Although he beat them, but they can, if you like, reflections on this. So I was asking myself, why did the female students many of them were apologetic for the VC? I asked were they impeded by the structures that tolerate physical punishment and revere the founding fathers? Were they built into them some ideas about how to be a good woman in the Sudanese society? On the other hand, I was wondering all the time about these women from the displaced community. Why did they keep it up? They're still holding the
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We don't have much time anymore.
Okay, one last...
continue discussing as we move on.
Because I have one more slide, so if you give me 2 seconds. So my question is that I asked Bankarori once, I said, why don't you train the women in Sudan? He said, well, in some places the cultural structures impede those women to feel free and feel that they can do it. That's why we take them outside. So I'm wondering if this, the pedagogical approach that they use is useful. I am finishing with a quote from one of the solar engineers who stood up at TEDx talk and said, I'm not a woman, I am an engineer. So she changed her identity with that.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Gada. And I think we have witnessed what was happening there, and but she's fighting for women empowerment. Is anything burning to add or to subtract from this? Very small, very small. A second, please, Madam.
Thank you very much. I'm Sarah Francis from Tanzania. All of the speakers have not really articulated the role of media and women development. I think that's very crucial. We should at least hear how much media is impacting on women development. But one other observation is that we were talking about women in leadership. Is it about having the women on top positions, or is it about the women carrying the women's issues or gender issues? Just a reflection that we should look into. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we don't have much time, and I need to thank them, the speakers, very much, but I'll have to, just 1 second for each. I start with Gada. 1 second, please, to round up.
Okay, I want to round up by saying that when we use these buzzwords in our projects, we got to go down below the surface and look at what is actually causing the disempowerment, rather than just the microcredit, which is one way to empower women.
Thank you very much. Yes, Madam?
Merci beaucoup. J'aimerais commencer par le rôle des médias. C'est vrai, le rôle des médias est capital. D'abord, les médias peuvent être un instrument de valorisation des femmes qui ont réussi. Ça pourra permettre à d'autres femmes d'avoir accès à l'information, mais c'est aussi et surtout un instrument de plaidoyer et de lutte, je vais dire, parce que ça offre une tribune pour parler des droits. Et je vais finir en disant ceci. Please.
Gloria, please. Gloria, please.
To finish, please.
Gloria, please.
Thank you very much. I want to add that if we say women in leadership, we usually will measure it looking at women in high positions, but leadership is at all levels. So when women, even in the rural areas, have done something, it's still women in leadership. So we should encourage women's leadership at all levels.
And Mona, please.
Donc, merci. Moi, ce que je dirais, c'est que nous venons de discuter et de partager pratiquement des situations qui nous sont similaires. Et je pense qu'à la sortie de ce forum, on aura trouvé quand même des recommandations qui peuvent aider les uns et les autres à faire un bon travail et surtout réaliser les objectifs à rendre les femmes plus autonomes et plus actives pour le meilleur développement du pays de chacun.
Empowering women and contributing to the development of each country.
Thank you very much. I call upon Ruth, please.
It's their right as human being in any given situation, but also studies show that they bring in new styles of leadership and new values which aid to the leadership processes. Thank you.
And
moi ce que je voudrais dire c'est que chacun de nous ici nous sommes la solution. Si nous voulons, il faut que nous renversions la tendance. Dans l'exposé que moi j'ai donné, c'était pour dire l'autonomisation des femmes c'est très important. Une fois que la femme est autonome économiquement, tout ce que nous parlons, nous disons comme problème, ça peut. Par contre, en recommandation, il faut que les partenaires qui accompagnent les organisations de la société civile puissent prendre en compte les organisations de base qui ont des résultats. Moi-même, je vous parle, mais j'ai plein de résultats. Je ne suis pas là pour aller décrire. La voie que j'ai utilisée pour avoir des résultats, c'est ça. Donc, nous sommes nous-mêmes la solution, chacun, surtout les femmes. Je vous remercie.
Part of the solution. Thank you.
Taking this opportunity again to thank the speakers very much for giving us all these experiences and of course we are now rich and I think we clap for them and we can stand up and clap appropriately. Thank you very much. You keep on your seats. We still have some time, please. So, given our theme or our topic of local and national roles of women in development, now we have seen, as we went through all this, that we are operationalizing the SDG number 5. So, where is that we are fighting gender inequality, and that down to our governments, we operationalize through our plans and also with working together with our partners in development. And I think going down to the local government will manage to get through and move forward in the emancipation of women in development. So I take this opportunity again to thank you so much and the audience, I think, and for our youth, I think I should remind you, the youth, that you are very, very lucky to have all these role models in front of you. I think you have learned a lot and you are not discriminated. I think you are happy now. Thank you very much, all of you. Looking forward to seeing you this evening. Thank you very much.
No, no.